can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like $100,000.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here. I'm founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders like the founders of P90X, Baby Einstein, Atari, many more, and how they overcome big challenges in life and business. Today we have Sol Orwell. He's co-founder of Examine.com. They have over 41,000 scientific research references on nutrition and supplementation. The first 2 years generated no revenue, and he bootstrapped Examine.com from zero to over $1 million. And Examine.com is his sixth entrepreneurial venture, and he also founded AudienceOwl.com. Sol, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy.
So Sol, since it's Inspired Insider, I always ask, what's been the lowest point and then how you push through it?
So I had a business partner defraud me for many hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
And it was bad. We'd worked together for like 3 or 4 years, but he hit me in a spot where I wasn't in. I was in Argentina, I think, when this happened. No, sorry, I was in Texas when this happened, and I didn't have a chance to. Like, I was kind of isolated. I couldn't go to the bank. I couldn't make it happen. So I actually had to take a loan shark loan out of that funness. And
oh my God.
And I do remember going to the grocery store and whatnot and buying things. And you know when you put in your PIN and you wait for the approved or denied, I was always on the cusp of being denied. Like, my credit cards were maxed out. I got lucky almost that I got this extra credit card that the bank gave me for whatever reason, but I'll take it. And that extra $5,000 off the credit card kind of got me through. And even today, now that, my credit card balance are all in the zero and, I've got a massive amount of credit available. Even today, after I put in the PIN, just out of that tumultuous 3-6 months,
comes back
12
to you.
months even, I'm always like, okay, is it approved yet? Is it approved yet? I'm always like staring it down. Even though, again, I've got more than enough cash in my wallet, whatever. So yeah, that was rough. That was tiring. I even thought about getting a real job. But the idea of getting a real job was just the opposite of palpable, so I could never make that happen.
How did you pay the loan shark back? I always picture someone like they're going to come at you with like a baseball bat or something.
I know, right? But so it was a 50% loan. It was 50% interest. I ended up paying $175,000 on a $100,000 initial principal. But it was just one of those, I had to do it. My websites and my domains and all my assets, my digital product was basically used as a collateral. But yeah, I had to do it. I was still bringing in revenue. It's not like he stole all my revenue. He stole revenue that was owed to me. That was, a chunk of change, obviously, right? I think it was like $350,000 actually. So I had expenses to pay, right? That was off the bat, and I didn't have that much money sitting around in my bank account, right? He had always paid me, and he'd been a bit late, so I just assumed he'd pay. It'd be fine. So yeah, I still had revenue, and I had to skimp more than I mean, again, it's a good thing I had a very minimalistic lifestyle, but I had to skimp a little bit, and yeah, just slowly wean it off.
So Sol, it doesn't sound at all like you have bad blood towards a person, like you've forgiven them for it.
No, I should not admit this publicly. I wouldn't say I've forgiven them, but I don't think about them. I think it's happened in the past. Eventually I went to a lawyer, and he was like, by the time, especially because you're a Canadian business, he's an American business, by the time this goes through years, you'll maybe get 20,000, but if you lose, you'll lose much more than 20,000 or 50,000, whatever it was. And you're just like, well.
I say that because some people just focus in on that and they let it consume them, and you seem to be at peace with it. So I'm wondering how you got to that place.
I honestly don't even have an answer for that. I mean, we can maybe, you know what?
It's the pottery. Just say it's the pottery.
I've been divorced. Maybe that's why. Maybe I've learned to let go of all my anger. But it's just, you can't. I mean, as a business owner, you can't be worrying about the past, right? You can't be bitter about this opportunity happened or that happened. Where is that going to get you?
Yeah.
And I'm not being like rah-rah, positive thinking or self-improvement, but it's a reality, right? If you're going to run a business, you have to be pragmatic. You can't be living in an ideal world, or you're going to fail as a business owner.
So on the flip side, Sol, the proudest moment. What's been the proudest moment for you?
Proudest moment. Proudest moment. I would say my proudest moment was I bought my first real paycheck, which was an arbitrary number in my head. But was 5 figures. The first 5-figure paycheck I got, I gave it to my mom, and I basically bought her diamond ring. This was
wow.
I'd always, as a kid, I'd always been very mouthy, and I always be like, yeah, I'm gonna make you proud, blah blah blah. I'm gonna do all this. I'm gonna get you this. I'm gonna get you this. So actually having a check in my hand, or that amount deposited, or that was a check actually, and then giving it to my and this was very specific for a diamond ring. This was not like for anything else. And this is beyond the idea of diamond rings are a ripoff or not, but it had been always this thing for my mom. So to get her this VVS, like the best 1 carat diamond ring was kind of awesome.
That's amazing.
None of my siblings can say they've done the same, so I can always lord that over them anytime there's any doubt about who's the best of them all.
Mentors. I read that one of your heroes was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you actually get to work with him.
Yeah, so I love reading biographies. There's my, anytime people ask me what's your favorite self-help book or business book, I say there's not a single one. I always read biographies because you hear about their struggles. You hear about their turmoil to get where they are, right? Yeah. So Steve Martin, for example, in his biography, he talks about how he'd record himself and then he'd listen to himself for hours afterwards, picking out the littlest nuances and mistakes he had made. Yeah. I can't even imagine listening to this more than once, right? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm tired of my own voice. So I love biography. So Arnold is a great one where, everyone thinks of him as this bodybuilder who then stumbled into acting, who then whatever. But he actually made his first $1 million off real estate. Right? And he said to himself, now I've got my money from real estate, I can do whatever I want. And that whatever I want happened to be acting. Right? So that's always been very inspiring. And also, he was an immigrant. He was a fish out of water. Like I came here for high school. I was so just awkward, I think is the right word to use. I was just totally did not fit in. I did not know what was going on. Just massive culture shock. But he came, he was a fish out of water, but he didn't care. He did what he wanted to do. He worked hard. He made his money, and that allowed him to do whatever he wanted. And I've kind of, on a much, much, much smaller scale, I've kind of done the same thing, right? I was a fish out of water. I did what I wanted to do. I believed in it. People doubted him all the time, right, with his accent and all that kind of stuff. I made my money, and now I get to enjoy life and do whatever I want when I want. So that's always been. I can always say I haven't had a lot of direct mentors, but I've always had these aspirational figures, and reading their stories has always been very inspiring to me. Yeah.
How was it for you though that you were an advisor for their fitness site?
It was kind of random. It was cool. It was very geeky, I think is the right way to say it, right? And just being, even my random friends noticed it, like, yo, Arnold is following you on Twitter. I'm like, yes, this is true. Or I do remember in terms of tweeting the last time he tweet, or any times he's tweeted me with my handle in it, just seeing the tweets that are sent towards Schwarzenegger are hilarious, right? Like, they show a part of humanity you would not normally see. I think is the best way to phrase it. So it's been very cool. I think that's the best way to sum it up.
Sol, this has been fantastic. I'm sorry you have an event with your girlfriend, because this could go on for another hour. But where should we point people towards? Where should they check out online for your sites and you? And I didn't even get to say my my statement about SGO, because I felt it was I felt it was so interesting when I hit that page, and I had a lot of comments on that. But that's for another time.
Right. Yeah. So the best
your
place
intensity on that page, like, people should just check out SGO. SJO.com. SJO.com. It's an intense page. It's intense. I don't know how else to describe it.
The reality is, I've tried to keep a relatively low profile, but especially for Examine, as its star has skyrocketed up, people want to talk about the business side of it, right? So I've had to talk about the business side because Curtis and Kamal were not in that area. So that's got me in Men's Fitness, got me in Forbes and all these other magazines. So people have followed me, and there's a bit of a following. So they frequently email me or message me or ask me about entrepreneurship and whatnot. Right. And the reality is that most people selling entrepreneurship online have never had any success themselves. People selling passive income, how to make passive income websites when they're making $3,000 or $2,000 a month as their full-time job. And they talk about it all the time. And again, I don't want to be mean, but I feel like if you're making under $50,000, which is not even the median income in Manhattan, you should not be self-styling yourself as an expert. Right. I will also be the first person to say I'm not an expert, but at least I've had a modicum of success and I have some experience. So SJO.com is just a place for me to not just talk about what I've learned in entrepreneurship, but research, right? So last week and a half, I've spent about 10, 15 hours researching about typography on websites, right? Readability. What about line height, line spacing, different fonts, sans serif versus serif, headlines, all that kind of stuff. So it's really a repository for me able to, and so I got about 3 to 5 people a week saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So sjO.com is just an outlet for me to be able to say, hey, just go look on the website, or hey, this is what my thoughts are on this, or this is something I think people are thinking about. So yeah, sjO.com to see me. My Facebook's there, my Twitter's there. I'm usually very accessible unless for some reason you do something really idiotic. So yeah, feel free to say hi or anything in between.
Examine.com, sjO.com. Sol, any final words or lessons that we should leave people with on this entrepreneur journey?
I would just say that just remember what the end goal is. And I personally don't think it should be money. It should be towards whatever is more important to you, be it a hobby, a lifestyle, traveling, whatever. Aim for that, and once you achieve that, then you're kind of where you were trying to go. Instead of just trying to make a $10 million business or $100 million business or unicorn these days, right, with $1 billion startups. Yeah. That's usually my advice to entrepreneurs, because most of them don't want to be running 1,000-person business, right? They want something very specific, the freedom or whatever that they're looking for. So chase that. Don't chase the money.
Yeah, love it. Thanks, Sol. Much appreciated. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me on.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like $100 grand.